Final Cut Pro, Pinnacle, Vegas, used for the revolution. The media, taken over by human intelligence, actually happening for the good. It's starting here, and it's happening everywhere. The good triumphant. The media rescued from commercialism. Institutional change for actual people control. Individual citizen access to all decision making. And appeals to reason available, with someone around with the power to respond to any citizen's urgings for a voice and ear, and are trusting the arrangements so that when somebody requests our attention, it won't be like now the world of advertising commercial, in which there's cheating going on, people insisting on our attention and wasting our time, and worse often, taking us on trips that are degrading. We are living in a time of human degeneracy, if you hadn't noticed, that before the economic disaster, there was the foreign policy reality that the American energies were being devoted in large part to a destructive, cruel interaction with the rest of the world beyond our borders. Military stuff, CIA stuff, proof right there of the appropriateness of revolution insofar as being an abrupt shift of alliances, allegiances from one group of characters and their buildings and their rules and their anyhow, I'm replacing Congress as we conceive it now with something much more instantaneous. Instead of the three houses of government, no, the three branches and the two houses, something different. Direct democracy instead of representative. That's the Messiah pitch here. That's why I consider myself worthy of saying, listen to me, everybody, is because what I'm having to say is not religious. I use the word Messiah just to point out loud that the general idea of Messiah is just a worthiness of your attention. The more the better. And I was saying earlier, I have made a maximum important scientific discovery. Here's what it is. Human nature is a circle of birthdays. That gives you a solar compass, a circle of birthdays. What's the circle of birthdays? It's an interaction of the humans sorted according to birthday. Arguing that that sorting will allow us to see the forest from the trees, and more particularly vice versa. It'll group things so that human nature won't be a mystery but a known quantity that we can deal with and make improvements in the human condition, hopefully. Although I could see how some of these smarts can be appropriated by the bad guys. The main thing, just off the top, is that I think I have a pretty good rap connecting the Bible's offerings to humanity, their wisdoms, their way of coming up with symbols and situations to illustrate the characteristics of these people. But in particular, I'm talking about Jacob and his 12 sons as a birthday trip. And my messianic role in human history would be to devote public attention, like everybody go read that, folks, the beginning book of the Bible series. And in book 1, gold is in 49. That's where they got the 49th gold rush happening with the Bible. Jacob's 12 sons. And I think it's important because as a scientist who has been studying the importance of seasonality all these years of my life, 40 years studying seasonality in human form, the seasonality of human character, the morbidity of the October, November, December piece of the circle. People born not like in springtime when things are nice and then they get even better, but born when things aren't even that good and then they get worse. Imagine that as your introductory lessons to life. Now, one thing you can do is say, no more babies born then. It is just too cruel to do that to any hope in life. But then there's these other people saying, no, I'll tell you what we can do. We can shield them from a lot of that stuff. So all we're talking about is variations in the length of day. Maybe that won't kick in the different glands and the neurals. Anyhow, what it comes down to this, folks, pain is bad, I think. If we're going to create a civilization that doesn't have to deal with much pain, if it's a civilization that has achieved a graceful abundance so that you don't have to struggle. The birthday factor in human nature, as I have studied it, comes down to this. Human nature, humans, as a species, we are unique in having such a broad variety of times the baby gets born, that most species in nature, they just have like their one special time of the year when they're born. And that's for the reason that evolution is an accommodation to nature. And each species had worked out a special groove. Human nature has been a mystery I am here offering, is that the human female has evolved to get in heat regularly throughout the year. Now it does, some women get panicky that I miss my period 2 months in a row. And I would be thinking, that could be a wise decision of nature herself, that instead of babies being born what would be 9 months later, it would be better off that she didn't ovulate that time. And maybe, I don't think it would be too hard. Well, I'm going to end this segment with just a story I remember. That in researching seasonality, I learned that there was a ganging together of women's menstrual cycles, that women who lived in groups tended to get together with the same menstrual cycle. And they even traced it to a dominant female who was leading the pack. And to test out their theory, they took swabs from her armpits and they distributed them to different colleges where they painted that smell on the upper lip of co-eds. And they found it could trigger them all, like that smell could get them all ovulating at the same time. Meanwhile, birthday is a big deal because it is a grip of human intelligence for the sake of enlightenment, of understanding what's going on, so we see human in its different forms and don't confuse ourselves trying to come up with generalizations that don't apply to that kind of texture. And while we're at it, we can save the world. With Joe Friendly doing the rap, Sometimes he gets off the path. And maybe this will help my YouTube ratings. Can I compete against Mishi?